And we should be live. We are live
Woo!
with Julia Deans. Hi, Julia.
Hi, how's it going?
Oh, it's bloody marvellous, actually. Thank you for joining us today. I'm kind of very excited to speak to you. It's been one of these kind of fantastic times chatting for a few weeks or a couple of months to finally connect and hook up. And yeah, you're coming to Dunedin, and maybe we can chat Dunedin, or maybe we should chat before Dunedin, and then COVID-3 kicks in and everything's up in the air, but we're still talking, so I'm very excited. Thank you for coming and spending a few minutes with us.
Oh, and I'm still planning on coming to Dunedin as well, so hopefully that doesn't change.
Now, you were lucky enough to get, well, lucky enough, meaning just circumstantially, to get outside of Auckland when Auckland went to level 3. So,
yeah.
Which means because you have got a tour coming up, we might as well put these dates up now, eh? Should we put these dates up now? Let's put these dates up now. We'll do this for people who are watching. You've got a tour, and it means that because you're outside of Auckland, you're able to adhere to the level 2 conditions and still do your tour. So this is this Saturday in Oamaru, and then in September 2nd, 3rd, 4th, Christchurch, Dunedin and Invercargill. And that's still all going ahead as you know it?
There's also September 5th in Queenstown as well with Lawton Cora, all going well.
Oh, very good. But I was saying, thinking that I think the government is making, is it an announcement today or it might be Monday?
Yeah,
to basically
today.
To kind of say, give us a hint. Or if it gives us an ability to get out of it earlier, sort of thing. So I suspect in the South Island here, we won't be impacted by any changes. Probably worst case scenario, it'll stay level 2. What does that mean for your gigs though? Because with the social distancing, surely fewer numbers, or you're doing, I saw Ben Hurley, I think, doing a stand-up gig, and he's going to do 2 gigs, like one at 7 and one at 9, and halve the audience. Have you had those conversations with venues yet?
No, well, fortunately, everything is, these are all sort of 50 to 70 people. So, they're not big gigs. And they're venues in which they're sure that they can adhere to the social distancing standards. And we're encouraging people to wear a face mask.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, crazy times. I mean, just think about that. Yeah. I mean, it's this idea we go, I know it's a silly thing to say, but imagine 12 months ago if you had of XYZ, but imagine at any stage in your career thinking, hey, I'm going to perform to a bunch of people and they'll all be wearing masks. That's a crazy thought. Man.
I might I don't know, maybe we need to start stipulating that they wear, animal masks or something.
I have seen a bunch of, sort of internet content producers and content producers in general utilizing the opportunity though with making their own masks. I mean, is there a Julia Deans mask coming out? You could sell it at the gigs and then double dip.
Nah.
Hey, you're probably, I think it would be fair to say, known to most New Zealanders first and foremost. You've done a lot of stuff, so I hate to pigeonhole people for what they were doing 20 years ago, but the first time you came to New Zealand's attention, and maybe still when people think about you, the one that jumps to their mind is Fur Patrol. Would that be a fair assertion?
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember in the late 90s, I was working for More FM in Auckland at the time, doing emceeing an event for you guys somewhere on Albany on the North Shore, and you were the biggest thing in the world at the time. It was good fun.
That way you look familiar.
No. I look nothing. I mean, look at me. I look like some kind of Irish gnome now. No, I don't look familiar at all. But I have to say, I mean, I don't want to harp on about things I'm sure you hear all the time, but obviously Lydia is a institution, that song in New Zealand. I looked you up on Twitter yesterday just to see what the buzz was, and it seems that every second or third day there is someone in New Zealand saying, Lydia, masterpiece, one of New Zealand's greatest songs. It just lives on and on and on. And I actually, when we were trying to connect there, and I had some trouble with Zoom, when we were trying to connect, I was here humming away Lydia, and I thought, oh shit, I better stop doing that because
I heard you say, "Don't stop singing that song." I didn't actually pick what it was. So your secret is safe.
It's one of those. It just seems to be one of those songs. You know, there's numerous of them in New Zealand. If you think of, you know, the Footraw Flats and the Loyals and the, you know, these songs are sitting inside my head, especially from that era. that everyone
Yeah.
still loves, still feels as relevant today as ever, and is just amazing. I don't want to quite be too wanky and say like a radio interview, hey, tell me the story around Lydia. But I mean, it is something that's lived on. Tell me about it. I mean, tell me about the song and where it was from, and you know what's happening with it today, because it still seems to be as relevant.
Well, I guess I don't know. The weird thing is that it's not specifically about anyone. I think it was just born of that time in your life. You know, when you're socially, socially experimenting with your social life and observing the interactions of your friends with their significant others and second significant others kind of things. So just you're in your 20s and you're learning about relationships, really.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the story is. There wasn't a Lydia herself. It was observational and just a story. But the weird thing is that the song happened, like it arrived fully formed in my lap, I guess, in the space of about 15 minutes.
Wow.
I think I wrote it, maybe played through it 3 times, and it was fully formed. I recently found my notebook with the lyrics in it from when I first wrote it, and they're just written exactly as they happened. There are no crossings out on the page whatsoever, which is like that never happens. So yeah, it's kind of a big fat tease in a way, because I've been, every time I sit down and write another song, I'm like, yeah, maybe it'll happen again. Never happened. But oh well, what do you do?
Looking for that high, like a drug addict looking for their next hit. Where's that song
totally.
that I don't have to cross out anything for? That's I mean I don't want to get all kind of weird and universal or anything, but that seems to be like a gift from the musical gods just dropped in your lap.
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of I've heard a number of different writers, of whatever description, music or poetry or, novels and so on and so forth, talk about when you get that pure channel through from, the creative ether. And it feels like it's being channeled through you and out of your fingers and your mouth kind of thing. Like it's, otherworldly. So I don't know. I don't know what happens in that moment where we tap into something in our brains that just spews it forward.
And so you wrote it. I'm assuming you said you did it in 15 minutes, or you were by yourself somewhere, talking to your bandmates, and when you're writing a song like that and you come with the lyrics and I guess the melody on guitar, something like that, then what happens? Do they just accept it, move with it, and it's still exactly the same?
Yeah, we just kind of fleshed it out, didn't change the structure or anything like that. It was just adding bass lines, drums, little guitar solo.
And what about that music video? Very famous music video. And one of the things I was going to say, this image here. Now, I don't mean to. I know freeze phrasing sometimes is not very fair, but it looks like quite an angry young lady running up on a guy. But that famous music video of this thing. I'm not going to play it because it'll get us pulled off YouTube. But no instruments playing along there. How did that all come together?
That was the idea of Jonathan King, the director, who basically, I think, because we were with Warner's at the time and they just put out feelers for a couple of ideas, and that was the one that really made us laugh. And it's kind of, that's what we always sort of were aiming for with videos. So yeah, just if it made us laugh, then it was totally going to be worth doing.
That's a cool idea. I think about Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters. They always say that they basically take their videos almost like a joke. And that's why you see them dressed up as women and fat people and pilots and stuff on airlines. And they literally it's almost like they're going, how can you take this seriously? This is ridiculous. We play dress-ups for a day. And that's actually their objective with their music videos, is to be silly.
Yeah, theirs are a whole other ballgame.
Oh, yeah. And, budgetary level, a whole new ballgame.
I just realized I forgot to turn the power on for my laptop, so my battery was just squeaking at me. it's also the simpler the idea, the better as
Right.
well, because then you sort of take away all these like ridiculous production costs, and it also, it's not confusing to the viewer. Like that, yeah. I think our two of my favorite videos were with Lydia and the one for Dominoes that Greg Page directed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're just really simple, straight ahead ideas. I mean, Jonathan's was for Lydia's like, you're playing, but you don't have any instruments.
And that's it.
And then Greg's one for Dominoes was like, you're playing, but you're sunk up to your knees in pool and concrete in a swimming pool, and then we fill the swimming pool.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, there's simple ideas. They're not necessarily, you know, that one wasn't necessarily as straightforward to create, but that, you know, just one idea. You know, it's not an overcomplicated storyline or anything like that.
Music videos are a fascinating genre, eh? There was a band a band called Eight. You know the band Eight, a New Zealand band that was around sort of more like 2000 to 2010. Quite successful. Drummer was the original drummer from Supergroove. There was they were a good band, good musicians, good band, good music. Just starting to sort of uptick, but had that classic New Zealand music thing of all the members were getting to a certain age, and it was time to sort of fish or cut bait, and do they need to go get real jobs, so to speak. This is not my personal experience, but you know, we want houses and mortgages, and I think families and that kind of stuff. But their music videos, they kind of were never in them. It was a really interesting decision they made, and there was one of their music videos where it was just a guy walking along the street coming to a T-junction and having to make a decision, go left or right. You flicks a coin and it lands on its side and you go straight ahead into the bushes rather than going left or right. And I think that's the music video where, and at the end of it, the band's in a people mover and they drive past. And that's the only time you see the band. And I always think it's fascinating to see, you know, why bands do what they do with their music videos, because it is a really interesting genre. It can be sort of intense and as story filled as a movie, or as frivolous and silly as a, you know, I don't know, a cartoon strip or something.
Yeah. I like it. It's hard to, though. You know, often see music videos that just don't match up with the music itself. So I think it's important to have something that adds, you know, enhances the song rather than detracts from it. Yeah.
And do you still get? I mean, is it something that for a performer like yourself, something that you guys did, gosh, well, it was late 90s probably? When did Lydia come out? Would it have been 98-ish?
2000.
Was it 2000, was it?
2000.
So it's 20 years ago. Is it something you still perform in your, you know, in your solo sets? Like, will we see that in Dunedin when you come through?
Yeah, absolutely. And we went through a bit of a phase where we got sick of playing it. Also, you know, for a long time, it didn't really fit in with the rest of our songs because you know, when we moved to Australia and started touring more and more, people weren't asking for it as much.
Right.
And also we were, you know, everything sort of became a lot more rock, a lot heavier, and it just really, we like to construct, you know, have a really good arc, you know, dramatic arc in our set. So this suddenly playing this kind of 50s influenced pop song just was like a jarring kind of moment. So trying to make that work within the set was quite hard. But
would this have been the more rock set? I mean, this looks pretty rocky here off your off your Instagram with the red hair and the low slung guitar.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool though.
Yeah, I like those photos. So that whole recently discovered a disc with all those photos on it, and there's a whole bunch of the band in full rock face. But yeah, when I play it solo, I will always play it. I mean, when I play a solo set, I will always play video.
I guess that's also one song that is quite. I mean, all songs will be reliant on your voice, but it's heavily reliant on your voice because the tune is so. It's a softer ballady type song, isn't it?
Yeah, I think people expect it and ask for it, and it's really nice. It's really humbling, and warming to know that that song means so much to so many people, and to see the enjoyment on people's faces, and when they sing along,
Yeah.
you know, it gives me an opportunity to give them shit for not being able to sing in tune.
Especially the My Baby bit. It's one of my favourite bits of the whole song, obviously. In fact, a tweet went out just as we were starting. In fact, I can show it to you if you want. And the tweet had, I think it was hashtag my BAAAAAABY. That was the
Baby.
That was the hashtag for the tweet that went out. It's also one of those things that is always fun. Here's the tweet so this goes out automatically at the start of the podcast, and so there you go. Hashtag Lydia. Hashtag my baby. So hopefully people have seen that and they're joining in. It's also one of the things that's always fun to sing, but as you can hear in my voice, I'm still a bit husky. I was croaky, so I won't attempt it now and be one of those people you can then laugh at for not singing. But I was thinking, but I'm looking forward to hearing or seeing My Baby sung by a whole bunch of people wearing masks. That'll just add to the atmosphere of the gigs over the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Is Fur Patrol still officially a thing? Is it something you guys still leave as an open end, or has it stopped and is a definite finished product?
No, we always kind of felt like it was open ended. I think Steve, our guitarist, left in around 2006 or 2007. But I'll let you in on a secret.
Oh, good.
Well, it's not really a secret. Because it's our 20th, the 20th anniversary of Cat, the album from which Lydia came.
Yep.
We're going to press it on vinyl and get that out. So we're just I'm scrambling at the moment to get a crowdfunding campaign off the ground, because we figured that's like a fun way to do it, and it's pre-orders for the album and a whole lot of extra little bits and pieces. So we were thinking, sort of hoping that things settle down and we can do some gigs as well, next year. That would be great. And but we're just really excited to be pulling it all back together. So we've had like a little meet up and on Zoom and saw each other's faces for the first time in maybe, 13 years or so, all four of us. Yeah, Simon and Andrew and I did some shows in 2016. We opened for Swerve Driver, which because the band is generally big fans of Swerve Driver, and that was great. And it was so nice to just get together, and everything just kind of fell back into place. It's like falling off a bike.
I was talking to my 14-year-old today as I was taking her to school. Take her to school on a Friday because she plays cello, so she can't walk that to school. And I said to her, imagine in 60 years from now, you're in your 70s, you've, never say you have to have kids, but you might have kids, you might even have grandkids, and you'll have stories about, remember, grandma, granny, gran, whatever they call you. Tell me about that year the earth shut down for that 12 months, which is what we're in right now. And I thought, what an interesting story they would have to tell. What I've never thought of, this might be a bit long-winded way of saying it, but I've never thought of, you guys could have had a massive year this year with the 20th anniversary of Lydia, and it's kind of been taken away from you a little bit, which sucks. I don't know if that was a plan. I mean, I don't know if in 2018 you kind of went, hey, in 2 years' time, but yeah, I'd never thought about people who have something that would have been this year, but had that taken away from them as well, which is
man, so many people like Tammy, Reb Fountain, or I think Nadia as well, all put out albums, and we had great, so many artists had all these massive plans for touring internationally and locally, being able to do these big shows, and they've all just disappeared. So many people, and on the back end of the music industry, behind the scenes, production, management, booking agents, venues, all of these things that are just completely shattered. And especially, so many of those people, their bread and butter is international touring artists.
Yep.
And festivals, things where you've got more than 500 people in a room together. I think I've been feeling quite grateful this last couple of weeks that I just booked small gigs just to get out and play.
Yep.
And I'm feeling very grateful that, I'm not doing a big tour with, like a full band and have all these plans just to have to put the kibosh on them because of the constantly changing rules. So I weirdly feel like I'm in a relatively privileged position, and I'm grateful for that. So, that I am able to continue working at this point, especially after the first few months of the year, which were just dire.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
And, I have great empathy for all my friends and, peers that can't.
So are you just literally gear in the back of the car, turn up to the venue, solo person, just you? Or you do,
Yeah.
so just you, yeah. I had Mark Hadlow on the last month during sort of lockdown as well, and he was doing a similar thing. There's two of them, but basically their whole set goes into a van, and they can just tour and put on this show, and they were doing that as well. So the irony being, as you're kind of saying, is that the smaller productions with fewer people are the ones that have been less impacted. I mean, we had Green Day, Weezer, and Weezer coming to Dunedin that I had tickets for me and my three kids. They pulled out, obvious reasons. But as you say, that would have been, who knows, maybe 100 New Zealanders employed from that tour for staging and sound and setting up and transport and hotels. And I listen to a lot of comedians podcasts in America, and they're constantly bringing up, I think they do. Like when you're working in radio, you talk about a psychographic listener, which is bringing down to one person. So when I was working at More FM, they used to talk about, I think they even had a name for her. It might have been Jenny. But like it was a 34-year-old female. There was actually a person that they would think about. And it seems that these comedians are talking about the waitress at the comedy club. Because obviously there are so many people, but they talk about, or they call them servers, the server at the comedy club, and how that person is impacted by, the no big shows and stuff going through America. So similar to what you're saying.
It's huge. It's huge, the impact that it's having on the economy. I mean, like you're saying, it's not just the people that are working on the show itself. It's all the peripherals, the taxi drivers that drop people off, the ACOM that they might have stayed at, all the restaurants and so forth in the surrounding area that would have had extra clientele.
And saying that, it seems that here in New Zealand we're, I don't want to say luckier than most countries, because that when you say luck, it sort of implies I had no part to play in it, but an element of luck, but also, luck from our location perhaps, but also, fairly good planning. Nothing perfect in this world to get us to a place.
What do you mean there's nothing perfect?
Well, I'm getting a little bit sick and tired already of the politics coming up of
I know.
I don't want to kind of, I've got Winston Peters coming up next week, so I sort of need to be careful not to go, screw this party or stuff that party or whatever, because I'd like to speak to all the leaders before the election. But certainly National making a lot of noise at the moment about, everything wrong that Labor has done, where if it wasn't for the governance of Labor, be you a supporter of them or not, we wouldn't have that 102 days, and probably we wouldn't have a smaller second outbreak like we've got right now. Fingers crossed it stays smaller, but personally for me, I'm not a Labor voter necessarily, but very grateful for where we are and what we're doing. And even they've done that wage subsidy expansion, and I saw something the other day, they said that'll save 400,000 jobs. It's like, you know what? I've said this 3 or 4 times, so for people who listen to me, I apologise for repeating it, but I haven't said it to you, so I'll say it again. But it seems that this kind of thing, we have 2 columns. We have a good decision column and a bad decision column. And all I hope for my government, whether it be National-led or Labor-led, is they take as many decisions out of the good one and as few out of the bad one. And we acknowledge that they can't not take some out of the bad one. It's going to happen. That's what I hope, and that's what it kind of feels like we've done, in my opinion.
It's such a unique situation that we're in. Nobody's done this shit before, so it's not going to be perfect. But I think what I have been impressed by is every time that the government has come out and made an announcement about having step up lockdown levels and so forth, but across the board, it's all parties are behind those decisions.
Yeah.
It's just that once the decisions are in place, then the sort of like everyone sits back and kind of gripes about it. It's like, oh, well, at least there is solidarity about the big important things in general. You know?
I hope that I think we've already seen several byproducts that have come from this. As you were talking before about, venues and that, I did think the one place that seems to not have been able to move with this lockdown is the entertainment industry. I mean, business has gone to working from home and Zoom. Schools have gone to learning TV and on demand. But it's very hard to replicate a stand-up comedian or a singer-songwriter sitting in a pub across Zoom. That seems to be the one area that has suffered from it. The other one, and maybe that's just because you need bodies in a room to laugh when the comedian speaks or to sing along when the performer performs or whatever it is, and you just can't get that across Zoom. But
I think it's the thing that is vital for entertainment is that immediate human connection, because telling a joke, singing a song, telling a story, it's about that. It's all communication, and it's all about being there with that person. And you don't get that with staring into a screen. There's so many cues that you don't get. You don't get body language, I don't know, even down to the atmosphere in the room, the smell, the sounds. Once everything is just coming through a little speaker on your laptop or your headphones or a 2D image on a screen, you just lose everything. There's no chemistry.
Yeah, it's and that's one of the things. I mean, you talk about a culture of a country and the society, and what makes us, and the arts as a broader body is such an integral part of. I talked about it with Susie Cato yesterday. It's like we all have songs. Songs are the soundtrack of your life. Music is so important to us. Being able to laugh, being able to perform, being challenged, being able to see things and have things outside our box put in front of us. Often that comes through the arts. So it's something that I'm really looking forward to getting back to. I guess those of us outside of Auckland are quite lucky. We've still got level 2. We still get to see you perform in a small way. We miss out on some of the other things like the big gigs, but we can still go to the art gallery in Auckland. I guess under level 3 you can't do that, so we're not at quite the same restrictions. But it's been an interesting thing to actually figure out what really is important, and as I say, business, working from home, not such a big deal. I mean, for me, basically, I've done now about half of my podcasts on Zoom. Up until the lockdown, I'd done one out of about 75. Because I kind of had an idea that, much like a live performance, it's always better to have a person live sitting in front of you. And so I've had to shift with the time, so I've moved, and obviously what that's done is opened up the world. So now, hopefully, I've got some American guests coming up. I've got a couple of academics in the next few weeks, one from London, one from Hawaii. And because we've moved this way, we now go to utilize it and use it for all it's worth. But I'd much rather be sitting, like I've got a little fridge over here. I'd much rather have someone sitting here that I can just give a beer to and sit and chat. So you do lose something, but you can gain something with the using technology and moving to the next stage as well.
But I mean, I definitely think though that people, like you're saying, being able to do business from home is actually quite a relief for a lot of people, I think. But they still, everyone still needs to come together and commune, be with other people. We're not we're not lonely people. I can't think of the word.
Yeah, I was thinking isolated. Solo people?
In a way, we're pack animals, really. We need to be together. There's something that we need as humans to be together. And the one thing that I've really noticed in doing these small gigs is just people coming along to them are really like open and hungry for that kind of connection, which is that I've had a couple and they've been so far, and they've been so lovely and quite intense in a whole new manner. But like good intensity. Even though I'm just standing on the stage, or, standing up the front with my acoustic guitar and a bit of a sing. Yeah.
I spoke to Michelle Acorn quite soon after Auckland went to level 2 or 3, whatever they did first, and they had some gigs at the the comedy club there, and she was saying a similar thing. Everyone was like, "Oh my god, we get to go out and hear comedy again!" And the thing it was either people who sort of don't normally travel in that world, and they were just like, "Oh, see anything," or it was the hardcore people who always go, who were desperate to get back to it, sort of thing. And then you saw the same thing when Auckland went to level 1. In fact, the country went to level 1. That there was 40,000 people at Eden Park on that first one. It's just like everyone getting out and doing stuff. And I guess it's a bit like when you get, like, I remember I went and did some work in Vanuatu. I used to live and work at a kind of commune college in Northland, and of course we always complained about the food. The food was crap. And then I went and spent a few weeks over, because it was like, it was cheap and it was inexpensive and it was mass produced. Went to Vanuatu and worked there for maybe 3 weeks. Came back, never complained about the food again, because I had a different, my relativity had changed to what we had versus what we didn't have. But of course, as normally happens, that then starts to wane, and then after X amount of time, you're complaining again. Like when we have a tragedy, a horrible, the world's, I don't even know how to word what happened in Christchurch last year, but a tragedy. All of a sudden, every New Zealander loves each other, but that slowly wanes, and then life goes back to normality. So it'll be interesting to see how much, at the moment, we love and miss and just so want to be around people and with people. And then once we get a vaccine or whatever happens in 6 months' time, we'll be back to being, grumpy curmudgeons who don't want to get involved and get off my lawn people again.
It's like family. You don't see your family for a while, and you're like, "Oh, I miss you so much," and then you get back together with them, and then 24 hours later, you're like, "Okay,
enough." Yeah, enough is enough.
I'm in my room.
Yeah. No, completely. Other thing is, I was hoping that comes from this, like the byproducts of this. It seems to me that for a very long time we should have been able to vote for have our election votes online. Most of us, if you're working, you've got an IRD number, you've got the ability to have a secure IRD login. I hope that we can have an election in level 1, which means there won't be any problems. But if we have to have some restrictions, I hope at the very least, and within the next 12 months, they are figuring out how to if I can pay my tax online in a secure way, surely I can vote online. And then all of these sorts of problems would be handled.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that voting online is such a great thing. Partly the security. There's also I think it possibly diminishes the importance of it.
You think?
By just being able to push a button, it's like, no, you've got to actually commit to it. So you may as, go and do your civic duty, do the work, read the stuff.
Yeah.
At least make some kind of concerted decision rather than just, eeny, meeny, miny, that button.
At the moment, you could kind of do that anyway. The only difference is you have to queue up. I mean, you can still do no research at the moment and then still go tick green or act or whatever. But no, that's interesting. So you're thinking sort of the atmosphere of it, the being amongst the people, the being physically in society is an important part of the process as well.
Yeah, I do. I think so. I mean, there is the whole security thing as well. Like, definitely there are issues there. But no, I think it's, it is actually, it's still really easy to do. You just got to, there are so many polling booths around the place, and you can vote by mail as well.
Yep.
You can post it in, early votes, what have you. I don't think we're ready for online voting yet. Interesting.
And I guess, I mean, the evidence of what you're saying perhaps is we don't have it. I just hope that we're not in imagine if, say, Wellington was in level 3 on election day, what would happen then? And because the Prime Minister has said very clearly that there won't be another change in date. This is it. This is the date. And no matter what happens, there won't be a change. So I guess fingers crossed, and I guess that's our team of 5 million, as they keep saying, having to pull together almost as a part of our democracy to make sure we can have a free and fair election on that day by keeping this little revolting virus as far out of our community as we can. But
I think, if somewhere, if we were going to be in level 3, you're still able, if they can space out the, 2 meters at the polling booth, if people can still go to the supermarket, surely you can still go to a polling booth. Also, if we were at level 3, then you'd imagine that we would have been there for at least a couple of days. So, it's not like you're having to go across town to vote. I mean, maybe it's a different story for people that are out in the country. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
so many things to think about.
and it's always important, I guess, not to put too much, kind of brain energy towards them, especially if they're not going to be the case. So I guess it's one of those, put it on the shelf and readdress it. But no, the thing you just said about it's likely to be a few days warning is very fair and true. And I guess I'm one of those people that I typically go down to my local library the week of, and I vote the week of rather than lining up on the day of. So maybe there'd be a solution that they just really push that the polls are open. Actually, if people don't know this, most of the time some polls, not all of the polls, are open for a week, not just the day. You can go down to your local library normally and vote early. So open, and I think it's happening in the school holidays. I think that's the date, which means actually maybe they'd be able to open up more polling booths the week of or something. I don't know. But like you say, so many things to think about. Hey, I read about you that you did some stage work with Jon Toogood. Is that right? You've done some stuff on stage as well, like acting, performing?
Yeah. Yep. I did a show of Brel, the songs of Jacques Brel, with Jon Toogood, Tama Waipara, and Jennifer Ward-Leland.
Yep.
And that was a few years ago. And then after that, I do a show of Joni Mitchell songs, which is just beautiful. I was in Jesus Christ Superstar with Lawton Cora.
Oh wow,
that was pretty cool. Yeah, 2015 in Auckland, I think. Yeah.
Is there something? Is there something that interests you as well? The kind of acting, performing side of it, or certainly performing other people's music, other songs, and performing them in a different way? Is there something you enjoy?
Oh, I just these were opportunities that were offered me. People asked me if I would be interested in doing them, and it's kind of like, well, yeah, sure, why not? I think it's important to try new things. It's kind of like, what's the worst thing that could happen from me doing this is I go and I really suck at it. And they have to ask me to step back so they can put somebody decent in. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I mean, I did a little bit of musical theatre stuff at school.
Right.
I think I was in one production. That's what I mean. And I really enjoyed it. And I think, every time you do something new, you learn something more about your craft and about yourself and about other people that you're working with. It's expanding our horizons, I think, is an important part of being a human and living an interesting life. And
since Fur Patrol, so 20 plus years, has basically full-time performer been your full-time gig? And when I talk about that, I kind of go, without obviously getting into your personal business, like where your income has come from. Has that been it, or have you done other things along the way as well?
I've done the obligatory retail and hospo stints. But yeah, mostly.
Even post Fur Patrol?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in Australia.
All right.
But no, since I've been back in New Zealand, it's just been music and performing. Yeah.
That must be nice.
So it is nice. It's not always easy. And sometimes it's downright scary.
Yeah.
But you just kind of learn how to hustle yourself, and into action when you're sort of looking at and empty calendar. It's like, what am I going to do? Find, go out and find things to do. I do a bit of mentoring in schools, which is what I was doing in Hawke's Bay when the lockdown level 3 came into place. So
just mentoring as in mentoring the kids, or specifically around music?
Around music. So going into high schools, it's organised through the New Zealand Music Commission.
Oh, cool.
Sometimes independently. But yeah, go in and spend a day with them, writing and performing and trying new things and not all of those things, not just as a career option, but as something that's good for you and might be helpful with your journey through life.
The ability to be sort of a full-time performer in New Zealand, I said before, it must be you're so lucky. It must be nice. I don't want to say lucky again, because that implies an element of uncontrolled. I mean, obviously it's a hard slog and you've done the work, but you do hear so many stories from New Zealand artists who do have the other job, and I'm not, and it might be completely separate, like teaching or something like that as well, but to be able to basically help them continue to perform, they need another strain of income. So that's cool to hear.
Well, I just keep hoping that there's also the thing too with getting a bit older, a bit more mature. It's like how long is this a viable and sustainable option? So you're always kind of thinking about possible future ventures, because I don't have any other qualifications. I can sell stuff real good.
Yeah. Well, we've already said Julia Dean's masks. That would be there's your starting point. And you could do like Julia Dean's and like a smile, like the thing, and then it would be like a smile on their face.
Yeah. So the future is not. It's not certain, that's for sure.
I thought the future was so bright you had to wear shades. Isn't that the saying? My future's so bright I got to wear shades? Yeah. Maybe not.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe not. So is that something that it sounds like for a performer, and I guess not talking about you, but in general, when you say the calendar's empty, a lot of the time you take the opportunities that kind of come in front of you. Obviously you have some crazy year like this year. It's a different animal. But is that a conversation you do have with yourself? Like, okay, I've got a 5-year plan. Like, do you have a 5-year plan? Or is it more that I'm thinking, no, I need a 5-year plan? Or
I don't think I've had a 5-year plan since I was like 18.
And did that one work?
Yeah. No, I don't know. I think got well used to living day to day. And sort of moment to moment, which I'm trying to train myself out of. It's more like year to year at the moment.
Right. And this year's a fucking write-off, so we won't worry about this year.
Oh my god.
So many people are like, I've got so many friends who run businesses or who are starting businesses who are kind of just getting to that point where they're just about to become viable, and they're like, okay, we'll readdress this in the middle of next year because this year is wiped out. That doesn't mean that they've gone completely away, but it means there's sort of an 18-month hiatus that they're going to have to just pick up where they were at the start of this year and hope they can continue. Such a crazy time.
Yeah.
Hey, I know that you've got a pretty hard out in a few minutes, so we won't hold you too much longer. I did want to say to you though that your website, that image on your website, juliadeans.co.nz, is one of the most spectacular backgrounds to a website I've ever seen. If you're listening and not watching, you should definitely go check out juliadeans.co.nz. Tell me about that photo. That's spectacular.
This is the work of of my beautiful friend Maria Vegas, who is an incredible photographer. She's my go-to for photos, to be honest. We have a really good friendship and a good she understands making me feel comfortable, because I don't really like having a photo taken. It's like a great trait to have in a musician/performer. But this was the photos from the a collection of photos that we did for my last album, We Light Fire. And it's just really wanting to get that balance of, you know, fragility and strength, I guess, and like just these beautiful textures. That dress is by the amazing Tanya Carlson. She's just phenomenal, and it's a little bit Wuthering Heightsy, which we quite like, and a little bit Boudica as well.
Yeah, it's amazing, and like just as you're saying, the fragility and the strength, you know, the clay in the background and the moss in the foreground, and the color of the dress offsetting everything so perfectly.
Oh, it's all rocks. It's down at Red Beach, or up at Red Beach.
Oh, okay.
Which is just out of Auckland. Yeah, amazing place.
You just made me think, talking about not someone who likes taking photos. From a performer's point of view, and maybe, you know, I remember going to Big Day Out and having to sneak a camera in because they'd make you leave your camera at the door because you weren't allowed to take photos. And now we're all carrying, you know, 4K video cameras with us everywhere we go. I've never asked a performer this before, so it'd be cool to ask you, because you've kind of gone through that transition of the late 90s where we didn't have cameras in our pockets. Now that we do, what do you think about the idea that, you know, when you're on stage, someone can be filming what you're doing, photographing what you're doing, and put it out to the world, sort of, and in this day and age, other than, I know some professionals in America, they make people bag up their phones, but in New Zealand, we don't have the capacity to do that necessarily. What do you think about that, and how that, I guess, could put your wares or a performer's wares out to the public outside your control?
I think my main problem with it, you know, being a performer, is seeing somebody sitting there watching a gig through their fucking phone. Yeah. Or just, you know, it's like, be in the moment, use your eyes, use your brain camera, or flashes, like a flash going off. I do not mind if somebody sneaks, you know, films a sneaky, you know, 30 seconds or whatever. I don't mind that at all. But to sit there and film an entire gig, even an entire song, I think it's just take a step back. The internet's not that important. It'll never look as good on your phone as it's going to look with you there in the room. And also think of the people behind you. Nobody wants, I'm that asshole who will tap the person on the shoulder who's standing in front of me filming, and I can't see because all I can see is the view from the camera. Also, I'm short, so phones are always going to get in my way.
As you were saying that, I just thought I'd do a quick search. You're talking about this. People watching their phones, watching the thing, not actually watching the thing, whatever the thing might be. That's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I really like the one thing that I've really fell in love with doing theatre stuff is that you know you're told as you're walking through the door, leave your phone in your bag, and watching, you know, having people tapped on the shoulder and asked to leave when
wow
when they poured it out, or when we were doing Jesus Christ Superstar, because it was all done in the round, so at Q Theatre, so all the seats like came right down to the stage, and everything was very 3D, for want of a better way of describing it. But there was a girl pulled out her phone and was sitting in the front row, like right in front of us, and was filming, even though there were signs all over the theatre saying "Do not film, do not take photos." So, and I was like standing right in front of her, so I just leaned over and pushed her phone down in her lap and just shook my head. It was like, no.
Wow.
And then the usher came over and I told her off, I think.
So just so clarity, really? As a performer, you pushed your phone down from in front of her?
Yeah. Broke the fourth wall. It's like,
that's fantastic.
And then I also have no problem telling people to shut the fuck up at gigs either. Sorry for swearing. When they're, you know, talking too loud. It's like, people paid good money to come and watch the show. We don't want to hear about your argument with Daryl at the water fountain.
Always fucking Daryl. Always Daryl. Daryl and Karen hanging out together. That's interesting. I can't remember who it was, but watching a psychologist talking about generation coming up that are watching the world through a 2-inch screen. So and how detrimental that can be, rather than being in the moment and experiencing what they're there for. So I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Although
Yeah.
it is sometimes hard as well because you do want to share with others. Finding the balance is probably what you want to do.
Yeah, and I think we're so new to all this media, this technology, that it is just going to be a balancing. I think people are already getting sick of it and it's starting to go back the other way. So
let us put up for one more time. Tell people where you're going to be. You're in Oamaru this weekend.
Yes.
Then September 2, 3, 4, Christchurch, Dunedin, and Invercargill. I've got you on eventfinder.co.nz, but I'm pretty sure your gigs are also on there. They are on your site as well. And you said
Saturday the 5th with Lawton at the Sherwood. That'll be fun. That's just going to be a total shake it off kind of fun and frivolity thing.
So if you're in Christchurch South, between now and the 5th of September, you are going to be in one of the major cities, major areas, major touristy spots for people to come check out. And JuliaDeans.co.nz.
I'm afraid the Christchurch shows are sold out.
Oh, yep.
Oamaru is, I think there were 2 tickets left last I checked. There are still tickets available for Dunedin and Invercargill and Queenstown. So come along, sing a song with me.
And what you can see, even though if you're watching us right now, you're seeing it before us, we were talking about the look you were going for. And, what I was going to say is it seems that you've gone from sort of a Noel Fielding look in 2000. And I was thinking, her name's just jumped out of my head. Isn't that embarrassing? From Jojo Rabbit and Marvel. Plays the Black Widow. What's her name? Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson.
There you go. So you've gone to that from the Noel Fielding to the Scarlett Johansson. I think that's pretty cool. So JuliaDeans.co.nz if you want to find out more about it. Julia, thanks for joining us today. It's been a blast.
Thank you, Pat. It's been great.
Hopefully we've filled in a bit of your downtime while you're waiting around, and I guess people will see you here in Dunedin next week and in Oamaru this weekend and all over the bottom of the South Island over the next kind of couple of weeks.
Yay!
Cheers, have an awesome day.
You too. Thanks, Pat.